So a couple years ago, I did a video showcasing my entire manga collection, which you can go watch that to see what else is not in this video, because people have been asking me, hey, can you update the video and show us what new manga you've gotten since then? And I've gotten a lot, actually, so I figured I'd kind of go through and show what's been added to the collection since then. First up, we got Akane Banashi. I only have the first volume because this is a relatively new series, but I loved this so much. It is about the art of rakugo, which is Japanese storytelling, which involves a lot of very, facial expressions, voices, like basically a one-man show of performing a story for an audience. And the premise is that this girl, Akane, her dad was a rakugo storyteller underneath a rakugo master who one day just fires all his students and all of a sudden, and she grew up listening to her dad's stories, and so she wants to seek revenge by getting into rakugo herself to become a rakugo master. It is great. It really sort of introduces you to the concept of rakugo in a very fun, entertaining, mainstream way, so everyone can appreciate it. The facial expressions, the characters, she herself is such a great protagonist. She's so full of spunk and drive, and it really does make you appreciate rakugo, even though you're not even hearing them. The way it's just drawn and portrayed, it really pulls you into these stories. Similar vibes I got when I watched Chihaya Furu for the first time. So this is perfect for me. Really loved this. Can't wait to read more. And the art is just phenomenal as well. Next up is Beast Complex. I just actually finished reading the third volume. This is a spin-off side story sort of mini-series from the universe of Beastars, which I've only watched and not read. And I love Beastars, but people have always told me, oh, the manga, her art, it's just has such a real, distinct, charming feel, and I totally see it. I love how her art looks. I just love this universe. It's just, for those who aren't familiar with Beastars, it's like something like Black Sad or Zootopia, World of Animals, but hornier in the best possible way, and just really interesting and fun. In one of her author epilogue notes, she was like, I could write stories in this universe forever. And I hope she does. If she just every now and then puts out a new volume of this, I will buy every single one. I love just the fun, interesting dynamics she comes up with for the animal characters in these stories. So even if you haven't read or watched Beastars, this is still a great standalone little series. I know some stuff sort of ties into Beastars. You don't need to know anything about Beastars to enjoy this. Next up is Boys Run the Riot. This is a really good one. This is about a boy named Rio, a transgender high schooler, and he meets this transfer student, Jin, and Jin's kind of like this sort of oh, he's got a real sense of style and kind of looks like a street thug or something, but they sort of realize, they make a connection and they go, we're gonna make a fashion line. And so both of them it's their sort of story of how that works, meeting people who can teach them about fashion, and it's just really cool. I don't know a whole lot about fashion. For me, some of the best manga or anime or even just stories are things where it's a subject matter I don't know a whole lot about. I don't know a whole lot about street fashion, but this really pulls you in, and also strong characters, I think, are what really, can make me connect to any sort of premise. So yeah, it's great. I highly recommend this one. It's also not too long either. I kind of wish it was longer, but I still very much enjoyed Boys Run the Riot. Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. This is getting an anime, and I'm curious how that's going to be, but the manga is really, really good. The premise is that there's an adventuring party, and the main character is Frieren, this elf, and they go on this, journey to defeat the Demon King, and then they finish it, and they've been together for 10 years, whatever, however long, and then they part ways, and then Frieren, it's her grappling with, oh, all my friends who aren't elf, like, live for hundreds of years, they're gonna die. And it's just about the kind of sadness of immortality, but not in a way that's just all depressing either. It's really quite beautiful. Like, I don't really care about fantasy stuff that much, but how this one works for me because it's character driven, and it doesn't try to like bash you over the head like it's so sad. It's so sad. Like, it's more of a quiet, thoughtful melancholy, but there's a lot of joy in it too. I don't want to spoil too much, but this is kind of like first volume stuff. The hero character, she comes back and he's, you know, he grew like 60 years. He's a human, so he passes away. But it's just so interesting that, like, even though there are characters that are dead, they feel very present and alive in her memories, because there's a lot of her, like, you know, kind of going through her new life, or not new life, but continuing on a new journey and remembering all these memories of her friends from the past. It's great. I'm very much enjoying it. And yeah, I love that concept of, you know, immortality. It's kind of a bummer. The Girl That Can't Get a Girlfriend. This is a one-shot. It's so funny. I love it's an autobiographical manga about the author who just wants to get a girlfriend, and she it's like very about like heartbreak, and you know what can be funny and sad about heartbreak, and the art. It's just so funny, so charming. Funnily enough, on Twitter, I didn't know this. I guess she knew who I was. She's like a fan of my Tumblr day, or was a fan since my Tumblr days, and I was like, oh my god, thank you so much. But even before that, I just loved this. I loved sort of these autobiographical mangas. This is also like one that like just started as like, I think, comics online, and now it's like has its own physical release, and all kudos to her. I mean, it's a really fun read. Let's go through some more one-shots. These are both by Tatsuki Fujimoto, the Chainsaw Man guy. I haven't really read a whole lot of Chainsaw Man. We have Goodbye Eri and Look Back, both very different vibes, but I was so impressed by both of these. Look Back I had read in like the Shonen Jump app, like, you know, before, but then I got sent a copy, physical copy, which I'm really glad they're doing physical copies of these. And without going into too much detail, it's about two kids who they love drawing manga. That's all I'll say, actually, but it's very, very emotional. This was kind of my first real exposure to Fujimoto's work, and I was so impressed by it. It's really, truly emotional. That's all I really want to say. I don't want to really just spoil like what it's about or what happens, but just read it. It's one volume, great, highly recommended. On a similar note, Goodbye Eri. This one's a little more, not surreal, but if Look Back is like very grounded, this one is a little more, I don't even know how to describe it, but the sort of initial premise is this kid, his mom asks him to make a movie of her final moments because she's dying, and so he does, and then he meets this girl Eri, and they decide to make a movie together, and that's really all you need to know. Another one that it's a one shot, you really shouldn't know more than that, but I was blown away. It's like different reasons I was blown away. Like, yeah, this one's also emotional, but it's also so interesting in its presentation. Like just the way it's drawn, like certain scenes, very cinematic, and there are so many interesting twists in this that I wasn't expecting in a one-volume story. It's phenomenal, and reading this and Look Back makes me go, okay, I should check out Chainsaw Man. I had read the first volume of Chainsaw Man, I didn't really think much of it. But seeing what Fujimoto can do with these one-shots, I'm like, I have a lot of respect for this guy. I should check out more of his long-form stuff. But yeah, don't look too much about either of these, but they're both phenomenal reads. I'll give it my all tomorrow. This one is a real special one. I didn't know what to expect. It is about a 40-year-old man who quits his job and decides he's gonna become a manga artist, but he is not skilled in any way. And he's kind of a dumpus. And it's just him. He's just a lazy, lazy guy who doesn't really have a lot of drive. And he's just, I'll give it my all tomorrow. That's the name of the manga. But when a friend of mine recommended this to me, and at first glance, you look at the art, you look at the premise and the title, you think, oh, it's gonna be just like a silly gag manga, right? Just like, oh man, this guy's a real, loser, blah blah blah. It's just and it's kind of a one note, but I was so surprised by this. It's very genuine, and unexpectedly poignant and emotional. It is also really funny because at his core he's kind of a goofus, but there's such a sincerity. He's not treated as oh, this guy's just a complete joke. I can't really go into too much detail without spoiling it, but another thing where I'm just like, oh man, the good writing and really thoughtful writing really propels the premise. So don't want to say too much, but it's a really great read. I recommend it. I don't think a lot of people know about this one. Again, the art can be a little, some people might look at it and go, oh man, it looks very crude. It looks but again, for me, the writing is what's important. And honestly, I like the art style. It's very unique. I didn't expect to be emotionally stirred by this based on the cover and premise, and I was so wonderfully surprised by it. Next up is a one-shot. This is Our Colors. This is by the same author as My Brother's Husband, which I talked about in the other video. And it's just it's a story about a boy who he's a gay man, and it's just him grappling with that, in a society that really doesn't accept it. And then he meets an older gay man, and it's just a young gay man can be asking an older gay man about questions about identity and how to live your life that way. And it's again just a really great work. My Brother's Husband might be a little lighter. This one's a little more. There's more angst maybe in this, but I like that. I think it's rightfully so. I think it really is a very, very thoughtful, and this was a page turner. I read this in one sitting. I was just so enamored by it. This is one that actually I've had because I got this as a gift for my wife, and we have the Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon set. I'll be honest though, it was okay. I had never really watched or read Sailor Moon as a kid. I think the art's great, and it's fun, but I feel like I'd get more out of the anime. It seems like the anime has more fun going on, more silliness, and I feel like this one's pretty straightforward, cut and dry. Not a bad thing. But I think when I see funny scenes from Sailor Moon, I'm like, oh, that's all anime original. So, but I'm glad I read it. I read this years ago, through, and it's still a fun work, and again, her art's great. This next one is phenomenal. Real. This is by Takehiko Inoue, who, Slam Dunk, and Vagabond, which I talked about in the previous video. So fucking good. This is about three men who all have I won't go into too much detail, but the sort of central premise is about the sport of wheelchair basketball, and these three men sort of all have different connections to it, to that sport, and it's just so emotional and just rich with empathy, and and the characters are so good. And even side characters are just so rich with just characters are rich with character, but you know what I mean. It's just so well developed. So I love this. I've never read or watched Slam Dunk, and I need to. But after Vagabond and Real, I gotta read more of like Slam Dunk. It's heavy. It is heavy subject material, but man, again, it's just a truly beautiful, empathetic like work. Highly recommend Real. Here's one I got for my wife because she's interested in Junji Ito stuff, and I also like Junji Ito, and it's Uzumaki. And I've read a lot of Junji Ito, but this one might be my favorite. The way it's about a town that's cursed by spiral shapes, and that's all I'm gonna say. And you know, it starts out with like a lot of short stories that are fun, but they're connected. But man, it just escalates and escalates to just insanity. Like once it starts escalating, that's when I was like, okay, I think this is my favorite thing he's done. Besides like Emigara Fault, which is still like a classic. This is like to me, the quintessential Junji Ito. Like if I only had to recommend one Junji Ito work, it'd be this, just to showcase not only the, you know, of course his art is amazing and everything, and you know, but just the insanity this gets to is so much fun to read. I love it. I love this one. Best Junji Ito for me. This next one is Young Ladies Don't Play Fighting Games, which I didn't really know a lot of. I don't know a lot about fighting games. It's kind of a recurring theme. Like I don't know a lot about this subject matter, but regardless, I still love this work. It is about a girls' school where there's this like perfect-looking girl named Shirayuri-sama, and this other girl is like, oh man, she's so beautiful or whatever. But then she finds out that she's just like a little fighting game loving little shithead, like a hardcore gamer. And it's them going, okay, like let's become fighting game like companions. Let's just like learn, you know, make each other better at fighting games. Really funny, really really cute. I just enjoy the characters and their facial expressions and their sort of interactions with each other. It's great. And it makes me really appreciate fighting games, even though I'll never like fighting games because I just don't have the patience. I totally get the appeal after reading this. This is Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko, and this is about a sort of post-apocalyptic slice of life. Like it's in Japan, there was like a environmental catastrophe, and so like everything, like it's just a different world. And then the main character Alpha is an android who runs a cafe, and it's like such a cozy, considering it's about a world that was kind of like ruined. It's so cozy and warm, and I love that. And like, you know, they incorporate like the history of the world and the sort of like sci-fi stuff very elegantly. Like it's never like front and center. It's really just about like just chill, cozy characters. You know, sometimes there are whole chapters where there's no dialogue. Definitely not for everybody. Like if you don't like slice of life, I wouldn't recommend this one. But if you are like me, you know, someone with taste, and you like slice of life, it's a really special manga. It's like on par with like cozy chapters of Yotsuba. And then the sci-fi stuff is still interesting too, like, you know, with what they do with the androids and stuff. But it's never overbearing with its sci-fi premise. Now, the manga that I'm currently making my way through is Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin, which I'm not really a Gundam guy. I've only seen 8th MS Team, and I didn't know anything about original Gundam before reading this, but I think it's really great so far. I'm not done with it. I'm like on the 5th book, but I didn't realize that the original Gundam is just like a really well-told political war drama. Like I think when I think of Gundams, I think of just like, I don't know, Gundams fighting each other with laser swords or whatever, which isn't fair necessarily to say. Like, but that was just always my looking into it from an outsider's perspective. I didn't realize that in the original, there's only one Gundam, and all the enemies are like, oh my god, it's the white demon, like it's the Gundam. Like that really carries a lot of weight, like in a good way. Like I think Hideaki Anno does one of the forewords in this, And he talks about that, yeah, like nowadays it's just they're all Gundams and whatever, blah, 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 blah. But that Gundam is really special in this. And then not just the Gundam, but really what's even more interesting are the characters. They're really fun, interesting characters. It gives me vibes of like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which is one of my favorite anime. The sort of like ambiguity of, moral ambiguity of characters. And, the bad guys can be just as charming and nuanced as the good guys. There's definitely a lot of it is like, at least as far as I am in the story, all these scrappy sort of rebels on a base, and they gotta like, or like a moving base, and they gotta keep it safe, which kind of gives me like Space Battleship Yamato vibes. And then the art in this is just incredible. Like some chapters are just beautiful watercolors, but also just the art in general. It's by Yoshikazu Yasuhiko, who I might be getting this wrong, but I think he was like the character designer and like the director or something like that. He was very heavily involved anyway with the original Gundam TV show, and so from what I can have gleaned from the forewords and stuff I've read, it's like this is kind of like the fleshed out version, the fully realized version of that show, like including details and stuff that aren't in the original to flesh it out. And it's great. I wasn't sure what I would expect from this because I'm not really a Gundam fan, but I recommend it great to anyone who does. If you don't know anything about Gundam, this still fucking slaps. It's a good manga, and I need to get back to it, but I'm very much enjoying it. All right, that is manga collection part 2. Maybe in a couple years we'll see what I've collected since then, but all those manga, all of you should read it. Go watch the previous video, read all that manga, because I have impeccable taste. All right, peace.